that everyone knows about it.
You know, if you're a male, here's the path for you. You need to have, you know, blue clothes, and you need to be tough, and you can't cry, and you can't have emotions, and you got to throw a football, and you got to like the Packers, and you can't be too artsy and all that stuff. That's the path you go on.
I had a couple friends stick up for me, but not all of them did. And a lot of the times, that hurt almost the most is when my friends wouldn't stick up for me.
We're witnesses to those comments, "That's so gay," or calling somebody, you know, a word that's derogatory, or just saying a sexist or racist or homophobic joke. We're often hearing that, you know, as bystanders, and then witnessing somebody being bullied or harassed. If we don't stand up, that impacts us as well.
I think the biggest obstacle of high school is just the fact that everyone knows you're different, and that people can oppose you strongly, and that guys, especially guys, think that I'm attracted to them, every single guy, and that's what really makes me angry, because even in class, it's weird if I have to sit down next to like a different guy. They're always, "Why are you sitting next to me? You like me." And that's a lot of the problem. It's always the guys.
The people who hurt people are hurt people themselves. It's hurt people who are out there hurting other people. So the bullies themselves, you know, we label them as bullies, but they are also very often folks who are really hurting inside. And so it's, in some ways, it's a cry for help of, you know, why are you behaving that way? Why are you so hurt inside that you want to drag someone else down to your level or cause pain in somebody else to kind of get them where you're at?
We had an incident in Oshkosh where a young man was beaten up on Christmas Day on December 25th, 2011. He was beaten to the point that he required emergency brain surgery that night after coming outside of a gay bar. The two men who beat him up, who are now sitting in jail, 2-year sentence, by the way, who are now sitting in jail, I could probably place, if I were to be a betting person, I would place money on the fact that that bullying didn't start that night. And that was the extreme form of bullying. Something along the way, somewhere, they began bullying somebody who might have been gay or different than they were. And without keeping that in check, without anybody holding them accountable earlier in life, they got to the point where they thought it was okay to beat a man to the severity where they broke his jaw, where he had brain swelling, where he had all of these things happen to him, because they thought he shouldn't be gay and he shouldn't be, you know, out in a community just being who he is.
Nothing is ever done about any of the bullying, no matter how many people report it. Nothing ever happens.
The bullies are sneaky about it. They're not just doing it in front of the teachers. They're doing it in the bathrooms and in the hallways when teachers aren't looking, and before and after school and places like that. So you can have really good teachers who are there. They're really busy. They're trying to keep track of 30 kids and make sure they learn, and they don't necessarily know that that one kid's getting beat up in the bathroom and all that stuff.
Just feel all that hate and just unwelcome all day long. And it just gets drilled into your head that that no one likes you, and that eventually you start hating yourself because of it.
We've had many young people suicides, and several of them were youth who identified as LGBT. One of them being a very close friend of mine who died in September of 2010. And that was really difficult for me to go through, especially because we had talked to each other a lot about our experiences and how we would be there for each other. And finding out that he was no longer in this world was really difficult. And it made me think a lot about my life and how far I've come. Actually, this March will be 4 years of me trying to attempt suicide. On March 15th, I tried killing myself, and just because of all the hatred I've got from the community, from my family, I just felt really lost. And so I tried to do that, and I did not succeed, and I'm very glad about that. But then about a year or two later, having my best friend die the way I almost died was really difficult.
I actually went to a mental hospital 4 times for self-harm and suicide. I actually spent my 16th birthday in the hospital for trying to commit suicide. So I thought about it a lot before and after. And it was more so after I came out, actually, because of the ridicule and harassment. I just didn't feel like anyone was ever there for me. I didn't feel like I could relate to anyone.
In 2011, CHAP became concerned with the rise in youth suicide in the LGBT community. We realized that in order to address that issue, we have to look at the whole LGBT community. So we decided to take a plunge in December of 2011. Our plunge was not into the ice-cold lake, but into a part of our community that many of us didn't know much about.
What really hit home for the individuals involved in the plunge was this idea that we had youth who were driven to the point of suicide because they didn't feel welcome in their own community, sometimes in their own homes, but mostly in school or in our community around us. And so the idea for the plunge and the Include initiative came from that hope that we wanted to make sure that there were no more suicides due to somebody feeling misunderstood or judged for their sexual orientation or gender identity or expression.
The fact that they're taking this on in a big way is huge, but it has to be sustainable, right? You can't do one thing and then hope that everything's just going to change overnight. The message has to be sustainable, the pressure on different groups has to be sustainable, and the leadership has to be there. And so I think that as a community, this is a huge first step, bigger than most communities, any community that I've dealt with that I know of has taken in the country. And I think it's unfortunately had to come about because of a lot of crisis. But with that can come a lot of opportunity for change if it's sustainable. If people don't just think this is the end and be all and we're going to be good after this, but it has to be continued. And like I just said, people have to feel uncomfortable before they can actually change and grow.
I think we just, as a community, we need to get to a place where we can have those conversations, you know, with our school boards and have those conversations that are productive. But we also need to be making sure we're electing people that are supportive of equality and supportive of diversity and inclusion. That's key and that's important. And that kind of stuff doesn't, you know, that doesn't happen overnight.
My biggest concern is that I guess we'll start stepping backwards. Because I know we're moving forwards, but it's hard to. And there's a lot of opposition, I guess. So my fear is that, or my concern is that we'll start stepping backwards again. It's just probably my biggest fear, is to be afraid of having to walk alone.